There's guys that have earned the right to their opinion. Right? Like there's some guys that will say something, you go, oh my God. Or some you might even have to correct or go, hey, just stop. Just you gotta go do something else. I've done interviews with guys like that. I've done interviews that when I was coming out with my shtick and I was taking over, I was being charismatic, or I was being controversial, I was being whatever, I was bad sport or unhonorable or hard on the guy, however you want to say it, trash talk or truth talk or any way that you wanted to do it. I've had guys that didn't run the interview. I did an interview with a guy one time out of Seattle. It was a taped interview. This is for an FM radio station. Maybe that's still normal to you guys. I haven't turned a radio on in quite some time, but he was so bad at what he did. But he also admitted in there that he didn't really know what he was doing and that many people have told him not to cover the sport of MMA. That he's just not a hardcore enough fan, that we have a hardcore base. And at some point in the interview, I told him, those are good advisors. You should not be covering this. You are terrible at this. You haven't asked me a single question that makes a level of sense. You've asked about two guys, putting them together, they're separated by 4 weight classes, just for example, right? But that's good stuff. I'm coming at him. I'm giving him fire. I'm putting him down on his own show. Whatever it is. I don't make it. It's no worse than what I just said. My tone wasn't worse. I'm no profanity. He ends the interview and he never airs it. And I'm just go, oh my God, you idiot. But you'll never get somebody that's able to do that, right? If you ever have somebody that's the host and it's not live and they have the ability to edit and or can it will not matter how good it will do in the ratings. If they take a bump, they won't air it. They will not air it. Jim Rome has a smack off every year where regular folks call in and they talk trash about each other. It's called smack, talk smack. If you ever work Jim into it, you will never has anyone that's worked Jim into it won. So you have the carnival barker that wants regular people to tease, but the millionaire who's making money on the show, who organized it, can't be part of it. And I don't bring it up to give Jim a hard time. I bring it up because 100%, and he'll say every time, I don't mind being part of it if it's funny. It just wasn't funny. Well, no, there's actually now a history of the show, and anyone that's ever done it has never won. And Jim might not know it about himself. He might not know that he can't take a joke. He might not know that. So if he doesn't, right, like if a successful, well-known, hardworking multimillionaire doesn't know, of course, some voice over the phone that I'm working with doesn't know, but they shouldn't look at that. It shouldn't matter what bump they take. If it's good. If it's good radio, if it's good TV, if it's good theater, which is purely mean, are people interested? That's it. And you got to be able to play both sides of that. So it can be very tough to ever look in the mirror and to understand that guy is taking the bump, right? I get to be part of the show. I get to be involved, but I'm the one they're laughing at. I'm not the one that throws the game-winning pass and then leaves with the prom queen. Somebody else is taking that role. So, Chuck Liddell. Chuck is such a nice guy. He has such a good reputation. I mean, I really do need to say that. Like when I met him, he has been nothing but a gentleman. I've talked trash about him before. And then he's a very nice guy. I don't know if Chuck knows which way is up in this sport at times. Like I've never heard an analysis by Chuck that's right, but he's a world champion and he's in the Hall of Fame. So like he just has the right. But Chuck appears to be very susceptible. I mean, he appears to be very naive, which can be very sweet. That can be a very sweet and endearing quality. But he will state things, and we do have a vernacular and a belief system within the sport that is complete garbage. And before you make it very far, one of the first things that you have to do is understand that everything you've been told is garbage. So when a guy makes it all the way to the top, not just the main event in the championship, he made it to the Hall of Fame, the absolute highest. I would have just assumed he learned that lesson somewhere along the way. I remember when Chuck was getting ready to fight Tito. There's all sorts of questions that he got asked by the 2 or 3 guys doing the .coms in their basement that covered that fight. But I do remember Chuck saying, well, the last thing to go was our power. That our power, that's a quote from all those years ago when he was talking about fighters' power. The last thing to go is their power. And you guys have heard that. That's an expression. Right there with reach advantage, right there with size advantage, right out there with feeling out process, right there with footwork, right there with game plan, right there with training camp, right there with to beat the champion, you have to really beat the champion. Like there are expressions and words that are used all the time as a vernacular in this industry. None of which are true. None. There is no rule anywhere that the champion has to really be. There's nothing like that. And there is no truth that the last thing to go is power. But it's a hard thing it's a very hard thing to tell Chuck. But Chuck brought it up just today. He was talking about Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul. And that if Mike Tyson hits him, it's over. And that was an amazing concept for me. If Mike Tyson hits him, it's over. Why do you say that? Jake just can't take a punch? I mean, Jake's never been to Anderson Silva hit him and he didn't go to, like, what are you saying? That Jake cannot take a punch? Or are you saying that Mike's punches are just so good? Because Roy took them, lots and lots of them, and that was years ago. Or are you saying that a combination of Jake not being that good and Mike's punches being so incredibly hard and the weight being the difference is that if Mike hits him, it's over? Is that where that's coming from? Because we've seen huge size differences, right? I mean, Roy Jones was not very big. Boom, boom, boom. Mike was hitting him. Mike was hurting him too. Roy said how bad they hurt him. You could see that they hurt him. And Mike, that's a hard fight, right? He's got some real power. But what do you mean if he hits him, it's over? What do you mean? Like, that has been a belief many times. James Toney versus Randy Couture. If James Toney hits him, it's over. We've heard this, but we've also been told with Francis Ngannou, just to juxtapose it. Francis is so big and so strong, if he hits him, it's over. I mean, we've been told these things, but when has that ever actually been true? When? Yeah, I'm just curious what Chuck means. First off, the expression, the last thing to go is our power. That's a gift. And along the way of last things to go, right, if power is the last thing, I mean, along that journey is gonna be your. So if you're now at the very last thing, which is the power, but you've already lost this, maybe they could get you to believe it's the power. It's not true. It's never been true. It's just something they say. Like feeling out process, or like having a reach is an advantage, or like having a side is an advantage. Or it's got a youth advantage. I mean, they're just words that you throw out. Mike Tyson needs to get to Jake Paul. That's true. Mike Tyson's going to need to grind for however long this fight is, and that's one detail we haven't been told. We have not been told. There was a rumor today that they were going to wear 18-ounce gloves and headgear. That is just simply fiction. That is not true. But I am waiting on the rounds. And I do remember 3 years ago, these two fought on the same card, talking about Tyson and Paul. And Tyson did talk about the fatigue and how long he was out there. And I fully believe him, right? Having that break and going out there. I want to say he did 8 rounds at 2 minutes each. Could have been 3 rounds, 6 rounds at 3 minutes. I'm right in there, right? Maybe 6 rounds at 2 minutes. I'm right in there. I would love to see this, 5 rounds in 2 minutes, something quick, in and out. The worst part about boxing is the boxing. The best part is the hype and the buildup. That we're having way more fun right now. Listen to me speculate about a fight, bringing Chuck Liddell into it. You're having way more fun right now than you're going to have watching these two actually box. This is the good stuff. So get them in there and get them out as quick as you can. 5 rounds, 2 minutes apiece, you've proved your point. Fans are probably going to want a little bit more. Okay, let's take a look at this 6-7 round. Let's do that. Let's keep the 2-minute idea. And what's he talking about? If he hits him, it's over. What do you mean? Jake Paul can't take one punch? Really? Power's the last thing to go? Really?